Hello, I'm Graham Horton. Hope everyone's having a great day. Got another product review for you, and it's for the Godox IA32 flash unit. Now, this flash has been out for just over a year now. Godox have asked me to review this for you, so I've taken the opportunity to test this and bring you my findings. And I have to say that this is one of the best flashes I've ever used. It is a manual flash, but it does have an auto mode. So we're going to look at the IA32 in great detail. There are lots of features I like about this particular flash, and only one negative that I found in using it for a couple of weeks now. So let's unbox it and I'll show you exactly what you get for the IA32. Full disclaimer, I was supplied this by Godox to review for you, but as usual, if you've seen my reviews before, I don't take scripts. I won't be told what to say or what not to say. Godox haven't seen this before you see it, and the thoughts and words are my own in this video. So this is the IA32 flash from Godox. Very nice presentation case with a nice glossy front cover. If we look at some of the specs on the back here, it's an ultra compact and portable size for easy insertion into cameras. It's got a legacy hot shoe, enables wide compatibility and plug-in triggering. The flash head is rotatable and it goes from -7, so you can shoot this with macro shots, up to 90 degrees, so you can bounce this off the ceiling. The M flash mode, the manual flash mode, is power level 1/28 to full power, and it's in 1/3 of a stop increments. It's also got the S1 and S2 optical trigger modes, as well as the auto mode, which we'll look at in great detail. In the box we have the IA32 flash unit itself. Let's just take that out. In the lower compartment we've just got a basic instruction manual to give you some idea of how to set this up and the modes available, and there is some charts about using the manual mode for exposure and the auto mode, so we'll go through that in a little bit more detail later on. And we also just get a carry bag to protect your device in your camera bag. So this is the Godox IA32 flash unit. You can see it's quite compact, it's only palm size, and the headline feature, I guess, is the rotating head. So rather than the head popping up as it would do on sort of a standard flash unit like this, where you'd have to swivel the head, this one has a rotating tube in the head, so it can go from 90 degrees vertical down to -7 degrees, and they are indicated on the top of the unit here with the line on the barrel and then the indication of the angle on the side of the unit. Now, I said there was no negatives apart from this dial, which is far too easy to move. If the detents were a little stronger in this unit, it would be ideal. So it's far too easy just to catch that when you're either changing settings or moving it around. Quite often it will change position. So if you're using it in a fixed position, you could put a little bit of gaffer tape over there, but it really does need to have that detent mechanism strengthened up to make this into a 100% perfect flash unit. On the front of the unit, at the bottom there, is an aperture, and that is where the sensor sits for the auto feature of this flash gun. So it takes reflected light from the subject and then turns off the flash when it's reached the correct exposure. And we'll go through the auto setting in a little while and I'll show you how that works. It is powered by AA batteries, so for those that don't like inbuilt lithium-ion batteries which have got a limited lifespan and then presumably you've got to throw away the flash because you can't service it, here with this flash it will take 2 AA cells. You could use nickel metal hydride as I'm using here, or you can use alkaline batteries. The nickel metal hydride slightly lower voltage, just takes a little bit longer to charge the flash unit, but they do last longer than your alkaline batteries. Coming around to the back of the unit, we have the colour display, which we'll see in a moment, negative and positive for incrementing and decrementing the settings, the mode button, which allows us to change the mode from manual to slave 1, which will fire simultaneously with the flash, slave 2, which will ignore pre-flash or red eye reduction modes, and then the auto mode. Here we've got a button which is the power on off, and it also acts as a flash test button. Up the top here, you might just be able to see there, is the window which has got the receiver for the slave 1 and slave 2 modes. On the side here we've got a standard 2.5mm jack, which is a standard for these flash extension cords. If you wanted to use this on the camera that doesn't have a hot shoe but maybe has a PC connection, that's a protocomper for your shutter release, and that will fire the flash unit. We'll go into that in much more detail later in this video, as I'll show you some hints and tips you can really get the best out of this flash gun. Now, on the base of the unit, we just have our single configuration of the pin return path for the flash. We've got a locking wheel here which puts a pin into the front of your hot shoe to stop it sliding off. So again, just a single pin electrode, which is the standard for this type of flash gun. It means you can use this with most cameras that will take a hot shoe mounted flash without any compatibility issues. So let's turn on the unit, and to turn it on we just need to press and hold the power on button. Red indicates that the flash is charging, green means that it's completely charged. You can see on the display here we've got the power indication that we're on full power, 1/1, and you might just be able to see on the display there we're in the manual mode. So if I wanted to decrease the power, obviously I will just use the minus button. So if I wanted to go to quarter power, then I can use that minus button, and you can see that the increments are in 0.3 EV. If you wanted to change quickly, then just hold down the button. So if I wanted to go back to full power, if I just hold the plus button, it will rapidly cycle up using full EV stops to get to the value you want. So again, I can go down to 1/128 and up to full power. With the test button you can fire the flash to test it, and obviously you can change the angle of the head. Using the mode button we can cycle through the modes. So if I now press the mode button, it's now gone into manual mode plus slave mode 1, so that will be reliant on this sensor picking up the light from our secondary flash, which will then fire this flash synchronously with it. If I press the mode button again, it will go into the manual plus S2. So again, if you've got a TTL flash on the camera or using red eye reduction with another flash unit, so this will fire then on the second pulse in synchronism with the main flash. Press the mode button one more time, goes into manual. If you wanted to go into the fully auto mode, we just press and hold the mode button. I can now see that we've come up to auto. This is a headline feature of this gun in my opinion. Forget TTL, this gun works fantastically in the auto mode. Basically you set the gun to the ISO that you've got set on your camera. So if I press the mode button I can select the ISO, and if I've got ISO 100 on the camera, then I just need to go down to ISO 100, and if I'm shooting at f8, then again if I just press the mode button it will switch over to the aperture, and again I can use the minus button to bring me down to the camera stop that I'm using, which is f8. Along the bottom of the display And so you can see the range that this flash will accommodate in that setting with your camera is 0.4 meters to 1.5 meters. If I was to change the aperture to a smaller f-stop, I'd say we went down to f4, then you can see the range the flash will work under is 0.5 to 3.1 meters. So with those set on your camera, you need just to take a picture and the flash will calculate the exposure for you by using that front sensor and give you perfect exposures. On screen now you can see some pictures I've been taking in the fully auto mode just by using the settings on the camera that I had and transferred those onto the setting for the flash unit. And again, using the bounce flash, it will accommodate you in the bounce mode, which I like to use for sort of flower portraits, all this sort of things. You'll find that you get perfect exposures even in the bounce mode. The flash will accommodate that. Now the IA32 has a guide number of 15 and that's rated at ISO 100 and that's in meters. That's probably twice the power of any pop-up flash that your camera might support, so you're getting a little bit more power out of this unit and it's ideal for that bounce mode photography. Unfortunately it doesn't swivel to the side, so you can only bounce it off white ceilings to get the effect that you're looking for, but you do get some nice soft lighting. But of course you can use this in the slave mode. You can have a more powerful gun giving you side light or a headlight, and you can then use this for full flash with the S1 or S2 mode depending on which mode you're shooting with the main flash. I tested this with my Sonic 478 flash meter and it is exactly as the book says. It is a guide number of 15 at 1 meter and ISO 100. When you use this in the fully auto mode, you haven't got quite the guide number of 15. It turns out to be about a guide number of 12, and that still allows some headroom to allow the flash to be able to shut down before you've got reaching full power status. So in fully auto mode, you're looking at a guide number of about 12 rather than 15. I'll give you a hint here. If you're using this gun in the fully auto mode, so you've set the ISO and your f-stop according to what you're shooting with your camera, then if you find that your flash is just slightly underexposing or overexposing, then normally with a traditional flash gun you've got flash exposure compensation, so you can add or subtract from the power of the flash to give you the correct exposure. With this gun there is no dedicated means to give you flash exposure compensation. But if you understand how flash works, you can accommodate that yourself. So if we look at the back of the flash gun, let me just turn this around for you. Currently we're set for an ISO of 100 and an aperture of f4. Now if I found the flash was underexposing, so there's not enough light coming from the camera, what you can do is say, right, flash unit, I want more power. So instead of f4, if I select f5.6, that effectively gives me 1 EV extra exposure power. Similarly, if we were at f4, if we were shooting at f4 and we found that this flash was overexposing slightly, then I can again say to the flash, instead of using f4, use, say, f2.8, which will give me 1 stop reduction in the flash power coming out. That's because the flash is using combinations of aperture and ISO to give you the correct exposure. I could do the same by using the ISO instead of the aperture number. It will give me the same effect. So if I wanted to increase the power, then I would just reduce the ISO. If I wanted to decrease the power, then I would increase the ISO rather than the aperture, because this is only one means to get to an exposure for you. Now normally you'll be using the flash units on your camera. That gives you the head-on flash, as we come to associate with this retro look. Bright intense colours, highlights in the eyes and a very dark shadow behind. On the screen now you can see a picture I've taken with that direct on-camera flash in the auto mode, and you can see the exposure is perfect, but we've got these bright dark shadows behind the subject. What I like to do is to take the flash off the camera and hold it probably at 45 degrees down to my subject and 45 degrees around from it. So how do you achieve that? Well, if you've got a pop-up flash unit on your camera, you can use that as the trigger for this using the S1 mode, or you can use something like this extension cord. And again, it really doesn't matter what type of extension cord you're using, because it's only going to be using that central contact. So this in fact is a Canon extension cable, so this would go onto the hot shoe of your camera. Lock that in place, and on the cable you would then mount your flash gun, and again that would just go onto that, lock that down in position, so you can then hold this at the correct position that you want for your picture. Make sure your head is down at 0 degrees, and you can see that I can fire this from the camera on the extension cable. So that is with a coiled lead extension, which gives you enough for arm's length shooting. The other option, if you've got a mirrorless camera or a DSLR and you wanted to use the extension, then this is a Canon 5D, the original Canon 5D. It does have a PC sync port on the side of the camera. So this is the PC or Pronto Compo plug. That would go into the socket on the camera here. The other end will go into the 2.5mm socket on the flash. Again, then I can use this off camera. You can even get longer leads. Here I've just coupled 2 leads together to give me even longer to get the flash off camera. So again, it's PC to 2.5mm. If your camera doesn't have a PC socket and you want to do this cheaper, these coiled extension cables come in at about £20, but these cables are only sort of £5 or £6. You can actually get a hot shoe to PC adapter, so they're only about £4.50 as well in the UK. So they would fit onto your hot shoe, and then you would plug the PC socket into there and the 2.5mm into your flash, and you've got then that flexibility of being able to use the flash off camera. So you can see the difference in results between off camera and 45 degrees to give you some side lighting, or you can use it for backlighting. Depends how your flash technique works, but you can get some spectacular pictures using off-camera flash, and particularly with the auto mode in this particular flash unit. Now, if you are using auto flash, it only works with the hot shoe. You can't use auto flash directly off camera. So if you use these extension cables, either the PC cable or the coiled extension lead, it means that you're actually transferring this back to the camera, and it will work in the auto mode there. So not many people have discovered that. It's a fantastic idea to give you that flexibility of some great flash shots with the flash off camera and maintaining fully auto mode. Not quite the same as through the lens metering with a TTL flash gun, but again the flash is measuring the intensity of light coming back from your subject, which generally is correct for most situations. So with that off camera, the auto mode will work. So that's with a coiled lead or with a PC cable. Now there is an option to use wireless controlled transmitter and receiver units. These are the ones from Godox, and they're the X1 range. Here I've got the Olympus O version, which will be the transmitter, and here I've got the X1R Canon version, which is the receiver, but that really doesn't matter because we're only using the center pin. You can use a simpler remote control, which doesn't need all the sophistication that these provide. So providing it will give you the same flash channel across the device, Some of them are sort of 16 channels or 4 channel. Providing you set the same transmission channel as the receiver, they will work. So with this pair, I would just plug this onto the camera. In the case of the Canon here, I'll be using the Olympus flash unit, so that tightens down. Just switch on the transmitter, and on the receiver, just turn that on. I can fit the flash unit, tighten that down. Unfortunately, the battery just failed in the camera and I don't have a charged battery ready, so I've just switched over to the Panasonic LX5 to demonstrate the same thing. So just checking, we've got channel 1 group A and channel 1 group A, and again I just set the power level that I need on the flash unit, and again I can just take the picture. You can see that flashed using the wireless remote control. In terms of flash color temperature, I've measured this and it comes out around about 6100 Kelvin, so it's just slightly colder than standard daylight. So if you really wanted to balance daylight, or you wanted to use this indoors and match it to indoor tungsten lighting, then you could in fact fit around the head some color temperature gel. So you can use, say, a quarter stop or half stop for indoor color temperature correction, or if you wanted to just color correct the flash head to 5600 Kelvin, use a very pale yellow to bring that color temperature down. And of course, if you wanted to experiment with different colored lighting, then again, using colored gels, you could just attach these around the head with a little bit of scotch tape, sellotape, whatever, just to hold that in place while you use it on that flash exposure. So you could use color gels to give you a colored photography. So there we are, that is a Godox IA32. Fantastic little flash. Has rekindled my interest in flash photography because it's so easy to take it out of your bag and start firing straight away. Providing you just set it in the auto mode, set the ISO and the aperture to what you've got on your camera. Providing you're using a shutter speed less than 1/25th on a mirrorless or DSLR camera, then you'll get perfect flash synchronization. If you're using a bridge camera or a camera that's got a leaf shutter, then you can use the synchronization across the whole shutter range. So if you're using this, say with the Panasonic Lumix 200, 300, 330 or 1000, you can use it at whatever shutter speed you like without having synchronization issues. Full charge, you're getting something like 400 flashes on this device, so it is dependent really on the type of battery you're using. If you're using alkaline batteries or nickel metal hydride, or you're using the cheaper zinc batteries, it will depend on the type of battery as to the actual number of flashes that you will get. But generally with the nickel metal hydride, you're going to get a full day shoot at 400 flashes. So the highlights are, you've got your bounce flash here, so you can dial in the angle that you want the flash to fire at, normally horizontal if you're using it for portrait stuff, or you can use this to bounce it at different angles. Providing the ceiling isn't too high, you can get great bounce flash exposures. If you're underexposing and you've reached maximum power, just increase the ISO in your camera or go down to a lower aperture and you'll probably find you can get good results. I've been using this in the auto mode and bounce flash for most of my tests, and it's performed perfectly. If I needed that extra flash, then of course use that dodge I'd give you of switching up the aperture to give you more power out of this flash unit. So that's it for this unit. If you do like the way I do these reviews, why not hit the subscribe button? If you do that, also hit that bell notification icon and you'll be advised when I upload new videos to the channel. So thanks again for watching. Thanks for Godox for sending out this flash unit for me to review for you, and I hope to see you all very soon. Goodbye for now.